The entire environment, it's very competitive now, right?
The way I think about it is like supply and demand, right?
Especially now that we so much of influence of artificial intelligence.
It changed from a few different perspectives. Number one, like overall as a platform, it became more like...
What's going on, everybody? Shri Kanase here, and today we are speaking with the one and only Alex Fedotov, who is the founder of E-commerce Scaling Secret and several 7- and 8-figure e-commerce brands. Alex, thank you for being here today and sharing a lot of potential insightful insights for our brand owners listening.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Shri.
So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, how you kind of got into the e-commerce world?
Sure, my man. So, I'm originally from Ukraine, and my journey started in about 2014. I didn't have any skills, didn't speak language, English language, and didn't know anything about like just building a business or building an online business. But at that point, I worked in the factory, and I just didn't want to have that life forever. And so I got on the journey of finding some other ways of making money. I quit my job at a factory. First started as a freelancer, and then throughout freelancing and working with different clients, I found about e-commerce and specifically drop shipping in about 2016, 17. And I started my first like e-commerce stores. Like those didn't work very well. The beginning first 6 months I was struggling, but then 6 months in, I first hit my kind of like winning product, winning store, and I started scaling it up and scaled it to like $4 million in the next like 12 months. With great profit margins as well, and that's pretty much how my journey got jump started.
It was very different than what the general dropshipping world looks like right now. Would you kind of agree?
100%, yeah, man. So many things change, and it's kind of like this standards in general, like 2016, 17. I mean, you could put almost like any ads like on a platform or almost like any product, and it would have worked. And still, I still managed to fuck it up at the beginning. But the standards were just like so lower, and now it's a pretty competitive platform. And in order to win, in order to advertise successfully, you have to operate on pretty high level as a marketer.
Absolutely. And you specifically mentioned the standards have changed. I'm very curious. What do you think has specifically changed in terms of standards, the approaches, or just in general with the e-commerce world, let's say in the last 1 to 3 years, maybe?
For sure. So it's like the way I think about it is like supply and demand, right? So let's say, 10 years ago, not many people were like advertising on Facebook. Not many people knew that was a platform, to get customers and grow the business. And so because of that, if you could be the only one like advertising, let's say in a beauty niche, right? Or maybe there's like 5 other guys. Now, because the barrier is so low and people are aware that they can use like Facebook ads to grow their business, or any other platform. You probably have seen similar on Google as well, that a lot of people are getting in, and there's already like established players, people that are already spending money, people that have already established businesses, right? So you basically have to compete with all of those people and also with other beginners that are also getting into the space. And so from that perspective, the exposure that consumers have to different products on a day-to-day basis, let's say you're advertising like paint relief device, right? So on a day-to-day basis, a typical consumer would see like 10, 20, 30, 50 different devices or different gadgets or different solutions that are being offered. And so consumers are being bombarded with ads, right? And so in order for you to differentiate and win and get that consumer to buy, your ads need to be different. Also, your landing pages needs to be different. And so you also have to learn how to monetize that consumer better through subscription models or other ways of just maximizing how much money you're making from every customer. And so from that perspective, it's a considerably different environment. But still, there's like people that are killing it on the platform like every single day because they just evolve with times. And people who still operate on the kind of like with old approaches and old methods and just doing things in a very like simplistic way, those people just cannot make it work anymore.
Right. And I like how your approach is more on the business perspective versus just the nitty-gritty details of, clicking this button within the ads manager or, launching this specific type of ad. And, like you said, the entire environment, it's very competitive now, right? Yeah. So, personally speaking, I know before the strategies used to work that, back in the day, because I know you said before it was much easier to just launch something And even if it was like half-assed, basically, there was a good chance it would work. I'm very curious, and I'm sure the audience is curious as well. Like, how have your strategies kind of changed with these changing times? Like, specifically, as you know, 8, 9 figure brand owner, is there something you do differently than those who may be beginners or maybe 6, 7 figure level people?
100%, man. It's few things, right? So number one, when I was starting out, even like my first like few years in e-commerce, we were just focusing on like quick transactions. Like we were just like we're selling gadgets, we're selling products in different categories without like thinking about like the customer in general. Like, okay, so if customer buys from us like today, like we don't care if that customer like comes to us again, right? It's kind of like very short-term thinking. Profit, like we wanted to be profitable in the first transaction, and then it's like whatever happens happens. And now it's more like, okay, if we acquire this customer, how do we create the best experience possible for that customer and sell them actually like a great product so they can come back to us again and buy from us? So from that perspective, just the longer time horizon, because again, one of the main things, like if you want to succeed right now, it's like you have to make more money from every customer than your competition. That's like basically the economics game that we are playing. And so from that perspective, that's driving our whole product development. We're constantly making the experience of our customers better. We're improving the quality of our products. We're moving to better manufacturing facilities to manufacture our products. Also the experience that we have after the purchase, like the back end of the business, which is like the email, the post-purchase sequences. We are optimizing all of those in order to be profitable from every click that we're spending money on. So it's just a lot more moving parts. We also got on other platforms, like we are selling on Amazon, for instance, because Amazon gets like 20-30% of our business right now, just because we are advertising so heavily on Facebook. And it's like those kind of like incremental things, like once we start like stacking them up, okay, so Amazon 20-30%, okay, repeat purchase rates like another 20-30-40%. And so now all of these things combined give us like a better like foundation as a business, instead of just being it as a pure arbitrage. Like 10 years ago, it was arbitrage. You buy the product here, you sell it here, here's the margin. You don't care about these like little optimizations, but now you absolutely have to.
Right. So going more into more of a holistic approach and focusing on the LTV and things that actually matter long term versus just the first purchase order profitability side of things.
100%. And I mean, Google is a big part of that as well. Like, Google is part of the business. Like even for any brand who's advertising on Facebook right now, if you don't have like any Google, campaigns, like at least like branded campaigns, if you're not tapping into that source of traffic, I think you're missing out big time. Google for us is about like 10-15% of our revenue. I think it could be significantly higher. Probably we need to chat with you and see what could be improved on that part. But like kind of like tapping into all of these additional platforms besides just the main one, which is, let's say, Facebook for most people.
Right, absolutely. So going into those specific platforms, which are in most situations kind of overlooked, like you said, 10-20% Google Ads revenue. It's a situation for a lot of brands I see. One thing that's from personal experience, most brands don't even want to look into like branded traffic, for example. They think it's just a waste of money. But the thing is, that small incremental revenue you get from branded traffic alone, number one, that can save your brand from competition. And number two, you never know that branded traffic could train the algorithm to go after cold traffic and similar audiences and whatnot. So 100%. I guess what you're saying is small things specifically add up over time.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I'm very curious, what do you personally think, based on your experience, based on you running your own brands, what truly separates like a highly profitable e-commerce brand versus one that maybe like just surviving off of credit card points, for example? Because I know personally for me, when I first got into the e-commerce world, that's all I was doing. I was just living for credit card points. And that ad spend would, transition into credit card points on the net margin level. It was flat for me initially. So what do you personally think separates like a very profitable scaling brand versus one that's struggling?
Most of the time horizon that people see their business, like a lot of people just seeing their businesses like this short-term kind of arbitrage. They're buying traffic, they're getting customers, but then, they're not thinking about the lifetime journey of that customer. and for that customer could be buying from you again and again and again. And it's like it's not applicable to all of the products, but people that are successful, they're typically looking at like, okay, what are the next products that we can introduce to our product like pipeline in order to maximize that LTV, and then just thinking about it from that perspective. I think when the business grows very fast, sometimes like credit card points is like all you have, because like you have to reinvest like capital back into the business. That's part that like not a lot of people are talking about, because e-commerce as a business is overall like pretty like cash intensive. There's like types of businesses that are more like cash flowing, where you can extract money from the business and nothing will happen. In e-commerce, if you wanted to double your business and you wanted to, let's say, deliver good customer experience, which means you have to buy the inventory for better shipping times, then you have to place basically 2 times bigger order, and so you need cash for that. And so e-commerce overall like is a cash flow intensive business. I think people are not talking about it, like people posting like screenshots and like how much revenue they do, and like all over Twitter, all over Instagram, but in reality it's like behind those screenshots, that's just the revenue, right? Then you deduct your ad spend, then you deduct your operational expenses, then you like, let's say you have like 20-30% profit in most cases, so sometimes even less. And so now you have to place another order for the inventory for the next batch of purchases if you wanted to scale your business, and especially if you want to scale aggressively, like double your business, triple your business, quadruple your business every single year. And so from that standpoint, is like people that are thinking about it long term. They're not extracting money. They're not buying like Lamborghinis in their first year of business. You can do that. You just have to wait until the business is, at the point where it's more stable. And so I think that is like just observing the journeys of people. I've seen some people like scaling their businesses to 7 figures, 8 figures, and then they take that money and then they just blow it and spend it. And those people usually are not surviving in business for a long time. They're not around. Like you see their brand this year, next year, like you won't see them. And so just having that life kind of like longer time perspective on their business and constantly reinvesting into it, like is what makes successful entrepreneurs in my perspective.
I think it's great you say that, because we live in a world now where on Twitter, every 16, 17-year-old is doing $100,000 days. But what most brand owners don't realize is the depth of those numbers, what goes behind the scenes. And you really break that down very, very, realistically, because I think having the realistic picture is key to understanding the long-term game is where it's at with e-commerce, right? But going specifically into the advertising side of things, right? Because, let's be honest, the ad side of things is what truly drives a business, at least the e-commerce side. You have to spend money to make money. So because I know you're a very good expert when it comes to Facebook ads, and since you have started, how would you kind of say Facebook ads has kind of developed over time, especially now that we so much of influence of artificial intelligence?
It changed from a few different perspectives. Number one, like overall as a platform, it became more like autonomous. Like back in the day, like you had to choose like specific targeting options. You could kind of like hyper optimize your account to hit different pockets of consumers. Now majority of the spend that we do, it's pretty much open targeting. So we're just targeting the country, age, maybe gender, and then we just like let Facebook figure it out, because they have so many data points and their algorithm gotten so good, so they can find the right person at the right time in the right place and show them the product so they can purchase it. And then from the creative standpoint, AI has changed it like so much, because many of the things that previously would have to be done like through, let's say you want to do like a video ad, right? And for the video ad, you need like a model or someone who speaks like, content creator. Now, like there's great AI UGC platforms that you can leverage. There's many platforms that can help you with writing the scripts for those videos. There's platforms that can help you to put together a B-roll, like for example, Sora, or you have Veo or Higgsfield. So you can plug those little pieces of content into your video to speed up the process. And so these tools have allowed entrepreneurs to just like move faster. Let's say before, to put like a VSL together or put like an ad together would have taken you like a week or two, because you have to send the product to creator, get them to send you the content back, then take that content, start editing it, start like shooting some other pieces of B-roll. Now, like a lot of these things you can do with AI. So the time has compressed between, let's say, your idea for a new ad and actually putting something out to the market. So that kind of like overcompensates for all of the increased competition, because yes, there's more competition, but at the same time, there's more tools to be more competitive. And so I think there is kind of like this equilibrium for people that's really taking advantage of the technology of different like AI tools. Like Facebook doesn't need like as much micromanagement as it used to. And so you can take advantage of the algorithm, you can take advantage of all the AI tools, and that can give you the competitive advantage that you're looking for.
So it almost sounds to me like using artificial intelligence within your overall Facebook ad strategy, or just in general, is almost essential for a brand owner going into the future, essentially.
100%. And if you don't, like, I mean, your competition will. Like, and it's so, okay, it takes you like 2 weeks to put an ad together. It takes them like 3 days to put an ad together. It's like, I mean, they can just pump out so much more volume. They can test concepts and ideas a lot faster. And if something clicks for them, they're able to scale it a lot faster while you're still working on making that piece of content. And so, yeah, speed is one of the biggest like advantages that you can have in business, not just in e-commerce, but in any other business. So, yeah, I think it's crucial for entrepreneurs to take advantage of all of these tools.
Right. Speed is essentially a part of scaling. They go hand in hand.
100%.
But going into Q4 right now, as we speak, it's already start of Q4, and going into 2026 into the future. If you had to tell an e-commerce brand owner 3 specific things that any brand owner looking to grow should implement or should look into, what would they be?
Number one, I think so. Right now, if you're already like, let's say we're in Q4 already, it could be like already too late for some of the things that I'll share. But number one, you want to make sure that you have enough inventory, because 2020, 2021, some of the years that I was running an e-commerce business, I missed this part, I disregarded this part, and it backfired on us big time. Like, for example, in 2020, we had a tremendous Q4. Like, if you look from the outside, we're doing like millions and millions of dollars a month in sales. And then it turned out like that some of the products that we were selling basically were sold out. Like, our factories didn't have them, right? And like, basically we didn't confirm that. It's like, hey, do you have enough inventory? If we 10x our volume like next month, do you have enough inventory for us to support that growth? And they didn't have it. And also it turned out like our direct competitor has bought a lot of the inventory directly from our factories. So they were scaling like crazy, and they actually had the inventory. We didn't. And so we started scaling up, made millions of dollars in sales just like per month. And then it turned out like we didn't have the inventory to fulfill all of those orders. So we had a backlog of, like 6 weeks basically for customers to get their orders. And so we had to turn off all of the advertising. We had to just like notify all the customers that their orders will not arrive on time. And, that just cost us like millions of dollars. So now we're starting to prepare for Q4 in June, July. Right, that's when we started. We placing orders for the next batches of the inventory. We're making sure that we have enough to support the numbers that we want to hit, and then making sure that because we're shipping from the United States to U.S. consumers, we want to make sure that we manufacture those products, we ship them on time to our manufacturer to our fulfillment facilities, and they can fulfill those items on time for our customers. So that's number one. Number two is just having like cash flow reserves, because if you're scaling, let's say during Q4, and let's say you're doing $100,000 a day or even more, and you're spending, let's say, $50,000 a day on ads, that's like $50,000 like every day. Then most of the payment processors, they don't pay you out on weekends, right? So let's say you're scaling on Friday, they don't pay you out the amount of sales. Shopify won't pay you out. Other payment processors won't pay you out. So you have Saturday, you have Sunday. So all of those days, you're still spending money on ads, but you will only receive your money on Monday. So you have to somehow support your cash flow during those days where you're not getting your payouts. And also I've been backfired by this. I made this mistake in the past where we were like scaling like crazy. Yes, ads are working. Let's just spend more money on it. And then it turns out, we have no money in the bank account to scale. And we have to, again, slow down the ads, turn off the ads, because like we simply cannot, fund the business because we didn't receive the payouts from the, during the weekend. So just being ready for that, because with big growth and with big scale, again, these numbers look very good on paper and very good on Shopify screenshots that people share all over the internet. But in reality, it comes with another set of complexities. Another one is that also people can get ready for Q4 is just the customer support. So if you're planning to like 3x, 5x, 10x your volume, you probably need to have either some great automations in place or extra team members on your support team to answer all of the tickets. Because if something happens with your supply chain, something happens with your fulfillment, your customers are not getting orders on time, your customer support will be flooded with many support tickets. And if you're not responding on those on time, like you'll get a bunch of chargebacks, bunch of disputes, bunch of returns, and that will backfire, all of your profit margins, your merchant accounts can go down. So just being ready for all of these scenarios and just getting ready, ideally a few months in advance, is what will put businesses, in a great position. But even if they start preparing for it now, like it's already like October, but at least they can put some of those things in place. For cash flow specifically, people can get access to certain like credit cards that have that float of like 30 days that you don't pay, that you can use that capital to reinvest into advertising. For also, they can use some inventory financing like Wayflyer and other solutions, and just being ready for the growth of the business from every point, not just like, okay, we have ads and they're working, but thinking about the business holistically. And cash flow is basically the oxygen of the business.
So it looks like having a very strong foundations along with proper cash flow going into Q4 or just in general seems to be the main thing you recommend for brand owners.
Yeah, just thinking about your business is like this kind of like, it's like multi-facial kind of like thing, right? So there's like ads is just one part of it, right? And ads is the oxygen, right? That's what makes the business grows. But there's also so many like little like parts. It's like an octopus, right? With like many legs that you have to take care of. And if you think about your business holistically and start taking care of all of these like little legs of the octopus, then you'll be in a great position.
That's a great example. That's exactly how a business operates. So many different touch points. There's really not one thing you can do and leave out another, because these need to be working together just to like move that octopus, make it glide in the ocean, right?
For sure.
But Alex, you've been great so far. I want to end this video interview with a quick fire questions. The 3 major questions. First major question is, if everybody listening to this episode right now agreed to take the weekend off, take Friday off, and read one specific book to make their e-commerce brand better or to just make their business in general better, what book would you recommend?
I would recommend a book called How to Get Rich by Felix Dennis. I don't know if you read that one. It's a great one. So Felix Dennis is an entrepreneur. He created like magazines and like newspapers like Empire. Like Maxim magazine is one of his magazines that he created. And when he died, he had like a net worth of like $500-600 million. And he wrote this book pretty much like outlining his whole like entrepreneurial path, all of the main mistakes that he made, all of the main experiences that he had, what he considers to be like the most important things in business. And so I think for an entrepreneur on any level, it will be super valuable to just have a reflection of the person. I remember like reading that book when I was totally broke, and I saw that perspective. It was one of the books that inspired me to get into entrepreneurship. But it also just gave me a lot of clarity, how many moving parts. And then I'm rereading that book like pretty much every year to just kind of remind myself of all of the main mistakes that I could make, or all of the main kind of like things that I should remember, like as I'm growing the business. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend that book, How to Get Rich.
Amazing recommendation, Alex. And when it comes to traffic specifically, Is there one, or is there a specific traffic generation tip you would recommend for a brand owner going into
I
2026?
really like AI content, and there is ways to create like organic content from or even like cut pieces of the content. Let's say maybe you have like a lot of like internal content and just distributed that content throughout the internet, throughout the social platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So it creates this like top of the funnel awareness for your brand. There's certain brands that like have basically generated billions of views like totally like organically and created this like top of the funnel like halo effect for their business, so that when you do it, like then you create this top of the funnel awareness. Part of those people go to Google, find your brand there. Part of those people go to your website, find your website, and buy the product from there. Part of those people go to Amazon, buy your product from Amazon. And if you're running ads on Facebook, that will be like just like Facebook just has so much data on everyone. So if they see that person is interested in your brand, they're likely to show your ads to that person to get to the conversion. So that will also improve the efficiency of your ads. So the way it works is you just create different pieces of content and you distribute it on different accounts. Could be your brand account, could be some other third-party pages, and then you just create dozens of those to create this organic halo effect for your brand.
So it seems like having a lot of impression share from all these channels is kind of what drives scale in this manner.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. And is there a cool little tool that you use personally, whether it's a Shopify app, a plugin, or just something in general to make your days more efficient?
It's not Shopify plugin. I use ChatGPT a lot. So I think a lot of people using ChatGPT. I literally have like ChatGPT like open right now on the side of the screen. I have this like big screen here, and then so ChatGPT and also Claude, right? So it's pretty much like any kind of task that you have. Let's say you want to analyze your Shopify data, you want to like analyze your ads data, you want to analyze your creative data, you want to like have your ad copy written. Like there's so many different applications for these tools, and I think people don't take enough time to learn about these tools and learn about the prompting and prompt engineering to properly utilize these tools. But once they do, they'll be able to save themselves like a lot of time and also get some of the outputs in a business a lot faster. So ChatGPT and Claude are two of my favorites.
ChatGPT and Claude. Alex, you have provided tons of value in this episode. Please tell our viewers where they can find more about you, your business, or what you do.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. It's Alex Fedotov, 3F at the end. I couldn't buy the 2F. So Alex Fedotov, 3F at the end. I also have a YouTube channel, so you can just search for Alex Fedotov. And yeah, those are, the places where I spend the most of my time.
I'll leave the links for Alex's channel and everything in the description below. But Alex, thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge.
Thank you so much, Sri. Thank you for having me.
Of course.